Outlaw Sports is brought to you by Molson Canadian, made from Canada, and Rocky Mountain Barbecue, Alberta barbecue cuisine at its best.
Hey Ian, I wanted to ask you, down in the NFL you had the Bill Walsh and his disciples, which included Andy Reid, Holmgren, and Gruden, just to mention a few. In Canada, in the CFL, maybe perhaps you have to start looking at Wally Buono and some of his disciples, and those two will match up this week in the Western Final. Let's talk about those two coaches and what they bring to it. John Hufnagel, there could be an argument for both these guys being nominated for Coach of the Year when you think of all the injuries and the game plan that John Hufnagel's been able to put together. And really, I didn't know how they were doing it. I didn't expect them to be as good as they were. I didn't expect them to even make the West semifinal. And then Mike Benevides out in BC, the controversy that he had with some of the players like Mitchell and the one player, I forget his name right now, that was threatening players and coaches, and they traded him off to Hamilton.
Oh, Pegues.
That's right. Yeah. And then all the injuries that they've had to deal with starting at training camp with that offensive line that was decimated. So really, Wally's disciples are matched up, and they've kind of taken similar paths to get to where they were this year.
Yeah, and well, it's an offensive coach versus a defensive coach too, which makes for a nice little chess game on the field. I think BC's had it easy this year in terms of injuries, especially when you look at the Stamps. I counted it out. They had 72 different players play a game for them this year. 72. There's a 42-man roster, so an extra 30 guys had to come in as replacements. And that is simply amazing. And when you think of the guys they lost, they're starting quarterback week 2, 3 starting offensive linemen, 4 or 5 guys on the defensive line who could have started games, and then you go to your kick returner missed most of the year, 7 games or so, and all the receiving core injuries that you had in recent weeks. It's been a remarkable job by John Hufnagel, especially when you consider he pulled more out of Kevin Glenn than any other coach has done in his CFL tenure. And it's been a long CFL tenure. It's been about 11 years that he's been in this league with a lot of different teams and a lot of different coaches. No one's ever gotten more out of Kevin Glenn than John Hufnagel. And I think that just speaks to how much this team never complained about the situation they were put in. They had all these injuries. They had 13 to 15 guys on their long-term injured list at most parts of the year. And never once did they say, oh, well, we're depleted going into this game. Never. It never happened.
Should he not be the Coach of the Year?
It always comes down to whoever gets to the Grey Cup and wins it, doesn't it? Because the one thing about the Coach of the Year voting, it's
they
voted.
Certainly pay attention in the playoffs.
Well, it's voted on, but it's voted on after the season, where all the season awards are voted on before the playoffs are completed. All my votes are in for most outstanding player nominees and stuff like that. Coach of the Year, they don't ask you for your vote until January, so you can obviously
sleep through it, watch the game, and then vote.
You can assess after that who's the Coach of the Year. But as of right now, I would say John Hufnagel should get it because of what they've accomplished with less. Because the BC Lions had basically the same. You mentioned the offensive line, but that was the only part of their team that got hit by injuries.
Well, the receiving core went through a little bit of
late in the year,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
But by that point, they brought in some names that you look at now and you go, is Arlen Bruce better than Ernest Jackson now? Probably not. But might get Arlen Bruce back, and that's going to be a big thing for them. Maybe, it's the thing that they had enough talent in their system that didn't get hurt, whereas the Stamps were looking at Joe West to come in and play some games for them and do some things. And he had never played before, and now they've gotten their guys back. It's a tough situation, obviously, in picking that award, but I would say Huff deserves it.